With a combined GDP of more than $4 trillion, the core economies of Southeast Asia are expanding notably faster than those of Europe or the U.S. A swift post-COVID rebound and domestic investments lend support to consumer spending, especially among the burgeoning middle class. But even with robust GDP growth, earnings of the region's 500 largest companies shrank over the past financial year, and that's across their top and bottom lines. Volatility in energy markets may have something to do with that.
And the region as a whole grew by more than 4% last year. There were some economies that grew close to 6%. That's quite respectable. And you'd think that in an economy that's expanding that rapidly that all boats would rise. But in fact, there was a lot of volatility. Some companies that are involved in energy, had either costs rise or profits go down. Companies that are involved in, anything that takes a lot of energy as a factor of production would have seen a lot of volatility as well.
That is best illustrated by the top 5 companies on the Fortune Southeast Asia 500. Commodities trader Trafigura, plus state-owned PTT and Pertamina, all are closely linked to the oil and gas sector. And so the weaker world demand for energy hurt their revenues last year. Palm oil prices also declined in 2023, denting revenues at Wilmar and Olam. Their outsized representation in the list skewed the overall earnings to the downside.
So it's a very top-heavy list with some very big dominant players at the top. If you expand it to the top 10 firms, you're talking about more than a third of the revenue on the list. And so what happens to those firms at the top of the list is quite important, and it's in some ways not representative of the remaining firms on the list. So if you take the top 5 out, top 5 are 3 commodities traders and 2 very large state-owned energy producers. And if you take them out, the rest of the list actually had a year that is more reflective of what we see with the GDP growth rates in the region, which is that profits went up slightly and revenues went up slightly.
Outside of these commodity and energy giants, other sectors notched impressive growth. One of them is manufacturing. The sector is the top beneficiary of a supply chain shift out of China. Financial services and tourism are also on the rise. As the world economic landscape evolves, Southeast Asia continues to emerge as an attractive market in its own right, given its relatively low inflation and a large young population of 680 million. And investors are hoping to cash in on those advantages. Foreign direct investment into ASEAN hit a record high of $224 billion in 2022. That is a 5.5% jump from the year before. As demand transitions from manufacturing-based to service-oriented sectors, experts say tech firms are likely to dominate earnings growth, potentially propelling them to the higher end of the 500 list.
One of the things that's notable about Southeast Asia is that now it has a very vibrant entrepreneurial sort of startup economy. And that's something that's helping to have new firms that come onto the list and that rise very quickly. So the 3 big internet platforms, Grab, GoTo, and Sea, are all represented on this list. So if you think of it kind of in very rough terms, as it growing at about 50% in terms of revenue over the next 10 years, it's going to be a very significant region. There will be lots of important companies to do business with, to invest in, and to be served by as a customer.